movement away to create spaces. Again, this is another great one over at Fulham Football Club in the Premier League. And what I'm going to do is I am going to play this short video again. I want you to make notes for me and drop in the feedback if you're watching it live on YouTube. Any comments, whether you enjoyed it, you didn't enjoy it. But also, if you're watching this on a recording, can you please drop it in the community for us, a little bit of feedback. And if there's something you didn't get or you need a better explanation or you're looking for more ideas, please feel free to drop it in. I'm going to play this one for you now. So this is movements away to create spaces. And again, this is at Fulham in the Premier League. Enjoy, guys.
Now, one of the big things that you'll notice in this session, you'll notice there's a lot of big cones. So not your standard small cones. There's a reason for this. Now, one of the big things that we discovered in England when we done the reforms in the Premier League was around youth foundation. Okay, so there's two types of course routes you can go down when you're a coach in England. You can do your standard B license, A license and pro license courses, and that's with the goal of coaching senior men's and women's teams. But also what they added in was what's called youth award modules, where you can actually get a B and an A license in youth award modules. And that's all around age specific. So that's coaching 8 to 13s, 13s to 16s, and then senior football. Now, the reason why these big cones are so important, it actually teaches players on how to move off a player. So we're likening that big cone that the players are stood next to is actually an opponent. So rather than the player getting touched tight to that big cone, what you can see is here is the coach is actually trying to educate the players as the ball's coming in to move off the cone to receive it. So you can see that player receive the ball right off the back of the cone, and you can see the movements now happening off the big cones. The reason why these big cones are important as well, because it doesn't act like you are standing next to an opposing player. And what it enables the players within this session to do is to start off touch tight, but then to move off the large cone to receive the ball away from the player. Now you can see here that the coach is stepping in again. It's breaking down a little bit at the moment at the start, and that's okay. Sessions can get a little bit messy at the beginning, but he's trying to get the players to start off touch tight, as you can see here. So we've got this particular girl here, and she's touch tight to the cone. But then the idea is when they receive the ball, they actually move off the cone to create that space. This is a great way to educate your players about movements, getting touch tight and then creating space and breaking off. So we'll see if we can get a player to move off the cone.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will get straight into my screen and I'll explain that one a little bit more in detail and how you understand this one. So what I didn't mention on that video was that we had 2 balls in play and 2 balls in operation. Now, this most definitely is more of a session for the younger age groups as a main part of the session, if we're looking at movements away to create spaces. But in regards to the older age groups, especially senior women and senior men, this could be done as a warm-up, just a basic warm-up, because you just want your players to get warm. It involves movements off the cone, which should be a prerequisite, like they should be able to do this easy. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to cover off. So what we noticed here was, we had some players with black bibs or jerseys here. We had a couple of yellows in here. And we had the coach off to the side, and we had our balls here so they could feed in. Now they did have 2 balls in operation, so I'll drop them in. And as we said, the big cones were in there. Now they did have smaller cones as well, all scattered around, just to set up the circle. Now again, it doesn't have to be in a circle. It could be in a rectangle or it could be in a square. But what we're looking for is, we're looking for players to recognise that when the ball's coming into them, are they moving off the cone? So it's building an image that the player's moving away from an opposing player. So let's imagine the big cones are opposing players. Now, one of the other things that we're hoping we see, and we didn't see enough in the video, but I'll explain that one of the big things that we need to encourage. So let's say this player here is about to send the ball to this player there. What does the player with the black jersey on need to say to the player who they're receiving it to? Is give them some sort of communication. Now, that communication could be all of the different communication types. It could be visual, so it could be a waving of the arm. It could be auditory, so a verbal one coming out of the mouth, okay? And also, that will then trigger this player to make this movement. And what we want to see is, we want to see this player time the movement, so they're getting the ball around about here. Then it might be a little bit of a dribble back to this space, and then they look to then bounce the ball to the next player here. So we're looking for movements off the cone. We're looking for a good verbal communication or a visual. And then the next thing we're looking for is the next pass. And the next pass is the player who's just received the ball, and after they've moved off the cone and received the ball, are they then scanning? And that is the final part. Remember, scanning must always happen from here. So if I put the scanning in brackets there, it must happen there, it must happen there, it must happen there, and it must happen always. So we're looking for a scan to happen. If we imagine this is stage 1, this is stage 2, and this is stage 3. We expect to see all of this going on. Now, if you're coaching the 7s, the 8s, the 9s, the 10s, do we want to get into all of this coaching straight away? Not straight away, but is it important to lay down foundations with the young ones? And I would say 100%, because these that are non-negotiable, they must be doing them. Now, the beautiful thing about this is you don't need to strip this back to a more basic session. What you could do is you could just pair everyone up very quickly and say, what we want you to do is stand on a big cone on the outside, find a partner who's opposite you, give yourselves a number 1 and 2, and you're going to have one ball between two, and you're just going to repeat this same method. And the method would be this particular player, let's say this player here, let's call this player number 1, and this player here could be number 2. They're going to work with each other, passing the ball and making their movements, and they're just practicing amongst themselves in between those big cones, okay? But we need to make sure within 5 to 10 minutes, if we're not seeing scanning, we need to let them know before they move off the cone, we need to see a scan. Then as they're communicating to each other that the pass is about to happen, they need to scan. Then on the next pass, they need to scan. And where are they scanning? Over both shoulders. So both shoulders all the time, okay? Both shoulders is an absolute must. So that is a little bit about movements away to create spaces